It's Ron, it's Pete, it's the Fall Turf Festival at Gulfstream Park West. We're starting today, fast main track, firm turf course. They did not nail the Rainbow Six yesterday, so starting in race number 5, it's getting up there. It's about $22,215. I thought it was $27,000. I must have wrote it down. I thought it was $27,000.
I think it is $27,000.
I think that slate is wrong. That was
yesterday's.
There's $27,000 in the Rainbow Six pool today. So $27,000, as I mentioned, a fast main track, a firm turf course. Good afternoon, Pete.
How are you, Ron? We have 10 races on the program here this afternoon, Thursday afternoon of racing. A very formful afternoon yesterday. The Rainbow Six was hit many, many times, paid less than $500.
Yeah, paid $400 and something. They nailed it. Of course, I had 5 out of 6 again. I can't seem to get it done. I only got it once at this meeting this far, but I've been close. Got lots of 5 out of 6s, but I'm going to keep plugging along. And now, before we get into the Thursday card, let's see what's tweeting around the country. And big things going on at our sister track up in Laurel. And you see they released their winter stakes schedule, Pete, with about $2 million in it. They're really going out full guns there. It's really a lot of fun stuff going on at Laurel.
And with parks not racing in the wintertime, Laurel will have full fields and big competitive race cards each and every afternoon.
Yeah, and I wanted to tweet out about our jockey that rides here all winter long at the championship meet, and that is Javier Castellano, who just happened to break his own season record by winning 20. He went from 26 to 19. This year he's already won $26,237,000. And the reason I mentioned Javier, he'll be here on Saturday, Pete.
Yeah, we have 2 graded stakes races here at Gulfstream West on Saturday. The Tropical Turf Handicap and the My Charm are both grade 3 events. Be a great afternoon, and we welcome Javi back to South Florida.
Yeah, also got Jose Lescano coming in, riding for, we have Pletcher Moditz there, like 2 great, really good races. You can check them out on our website, GulfstreamPark.com. And the other thing, a couple of win and you're in races. Let's keep the Laurel theme going here. If you win the Tessio Stakes, you're win and in the Preakness Stakes. And if you win the Weber City Miss, you go into the Black-Eyed Susan. So a couple of races that you win, you get into the big races during the summer, during the Triple Crown season.
It'll be interesting to see if the guys who are not going to get into the Derby ahead of time point to the Tessio for an automatic berth into the Preakness. I think that might be a good strategy if you know you don't have the graded stakes earnings. Target the Preakness and make sure you're in the gate there. You never know what might happen in Louisville.
Well, now we'll get to the Thursday card. And this one, first race is a 6.5 furlong sprint. These are made in claimants. 3 and up, Pete.
Yeah, this is a tricky race, Ron. 6.5 furlongs to the journey here. We have a horse that's currently odds on right now. It's interesting that he's odds on. He has not shown much by way of form, but against this field, he might merit a huge consideration. The barn money tends to show up early on these horses sometimes. So did you give any look to number 3, El Discreto?
I got him on the ticket. I wanted to ask you about the number 8, El Gran Gallego, who's wheeling back in 5 days after responding to the addition of Lasix last time out with a second-place finish against $10,000 maidens going 5.5 furlongs. Short turnaround. How do you handle things like that, Pete?
Well, I think you have to go back and take a look at this horse's last couple of races. He climbed a lot when he first got here. He just didn't look like he liked to kick back. The sand was not really his thing. And then he rounded into form, except 5 days ago he was supposed to win that race, especially when you looked at the trip that he got. He came circling on the outside. Looked like he was going to blow by executive mandate, like he was tied to the 8th pole, and it just didn't happen. He flattened out bad. Didn't switch leads in the process. So you have to draw your own conclusions, but man, this race is really, really tricky because there's not a lot to hang your hat on.
Yeah, El Discreto, as you mentioned, the number 3 has its claimant tag sliced in half today. Returned from that 2-month freshening to finish 5th. It was against $20,000 maidens going 7 furlongs. Rodolfo Garcia, MSCL Jaramillo in the saddle. As you mentioned, lots of early money coming in there. Pete, I closed it out in here with the 4 Zephyr Bay is making his local debut after shipping from Finger Lakes to Mahoning Valley Racecourse. You know more about that than I would. Coming within a neck of defeating maiden special weight competition. He might need a race over the track. How do you translate maiden special weight at Mahoning Valley Downs? I had to look that up because they changed the name of that racetrack. Well, actually, it's a new racetrack.
Yeah, it's
right?
a new venue. It's the former Beulah Park. It was moved 2.5 hours northeast of Columbus, Ohio. It's right on the Pennsylvania border in Youngstown, Ohio. One thing I can tell you about Mahoning Valley early in the meet, which this horse ran early in the meet, the racetrack was about this deep. It was like quicksand, and Zephyr Bay closed into the race last time out. So I think that from a fitness edge, he won't have any trouble getting over this surface, but you don't really know how to gauge the class level, at least without a race over the track.
Well, what about race 2?
Race 2 on the turf, a mile on the firm turf course. Another race that looked pretty tricky if you can get by the horse that headlines the field, the number 3, All For Us. Ronnie, are you an All For Us fan? How could you not be? His last race came against graded stakes winner Mr. Maybe. Mr. Maybe wasn't a graded stakes winner at the time. He came back to win the Red Smith at Aqueduct just last week.
Yeah, this one was plummeted to the $16,000 level. Return from the layup, showed early interest. Tired, that was against those $62,000 optional claimers. It was going 11 furlongs to a Belmont. You mentioned the horse coming out, winning the stake. Dropped, turned back to a mile. Should help this gelded son of Tiswell. Wonderful. Looks like strictly the one to beat in there, Pete.
Well, here's the thing, Ron. I have to ask you, you're worried at all about the class drop? I mean, this horse is keeping such good company. His form at Delaware, he won an A other than at Delaware. He's expected to do it and drew off easy. Is this a situation of them trying to find where he fits, or are they just going for the jugular right now?
I think, why not? You get a good shot here. You got it under optional 3 lifetime. And, always a little bit of a red flag when you're dropping down, running against 3 lifetime competition. The horse I used in second, Pete Street Rage, moved to the Gary Jackson barn via the claim. Steps up to this level today after finishing a closing third as the favorite. But that was 10,000 condition claimers at the distance. I don't see it as that much of a hike up in competition.
I don't either, but that horse was supposed to win last time. He just got started a little too late in the race. He unwinded a little bit late in the field. He was swung to the outside and tried to punch home, but he just lacked late punch there. That was the best way to describe it. So we'll see how he fits against a horse like All For Us, who's dropping in class. The other horse you used, Ron, was the 5 Corinthian Summer. He ran well first off the claim and first start in South Florida, didn't he?
Yeah, he came from Meadowlands. Does that count in your angle, coming from New Jersey, or does it have to be Monmouth?
It's turf. It doesn't matter if
that's
it's
right,
turf.
It's turf. That's right. I forgot. This one, as you mentioned, shipped in from the Meadowlands to run a 4-wide fourth. He was only beaten 2.5 lengths in that race at this level of distance. I thought it was a pretty nice performance. I picked this horse on my ticket last time out, not on top, trained by Kathy Mungin and Matthew Rispoling heading to the second start. Right here in Miami Gardens, I think there's room for improvement with that horse.
Well, this is a race, again, if you can get by All For Us, then this race becomes wide open. If you take it on faith that All For Us is ready, I think that he's probably the winner of the race. Speaking of the winner of the race, do we have one in race 3? It's 5.5 furlongs over the main track. These are wide open $6,250 claimers. You have a horse coming in from New Jersey, first start over this strip this year. The number 4 horse, One for Don. He was odds on last time against Jersey breds and failed. Is he the speed in here, and is he the one to beat in here, Ron?
Well, he's the one to beat in here, and I think more in the connections. This one is dropping a notch on the claimant scale after ending his, as you mentioned, his summer campaign. He set the pace. He weakened to finish 4th. That was against $75,000 New Jersey bred claimers going those 3/4 of a mile at Monmouth. George Navarro, here's the key, winning races here at a 46% clip. Leading rider Edgar Zayas handling the turn back to 5.5 furlongs, facing no world beaters in here. I think it's more of a connection play than the horse coming out of a 75 claimer New Jersey bred up at Monmouth.
It'll be interesting to see what his tactics are. He showed some speed the last couple of times. He has some other speed presence in here with the 6, my brother Johnny A. And then, of course, the 7, Deer Dog. He's folded up shop badly in his last couple of races, but he's awfully quick. Be interested to see if he's second start off the claim is a better one for him. He made a big move last time out and then called it an afternoon in a hurry.
I also used the number 5 in here, Lasta Friend. This one is going back to the main track. Parlayed a wide trip last time out into a victory, but it was 5,000 condition claimers. Also up in New Jersey at the Meadowlands, Dennis Ward, Jose Ferraz named on this 5-time winner on the dirt.
Yeah, veteran reinsman Jose Ferrer back in South Florida here today. He's coming in from New Jersey, as are a lot of the connections right now. So we'll see how it all fits out and how race number 3 plays out. One for Don, your heavy favorite in the second leg of the early pick 4. 4th race on turf at 5 furlongs, $8,000 claimers, which have not won a race on turf in 6 months. That's an interesting category. 5 furlongs the journey here. The question is City Trip as good as she was last time out? If she is, don't you think she's the horse to beat here, Ron? She was second behind Trio of Mischief, and this field is much, much easier than that.
Yeah, I mean, City Trip dropping. As you mentioned, the conditions right there. This is a non-winners of a turf race since May 19th. I think City Trip is in that logical spot. After setting the pace, finishing second, that was a local debut. That was open competition. So City Trip on top of my ticket. I know you had some interest when you were doing the tip sheet with number 5, Oxy Diane, sitting on a winning performance after encountering traffic last time out at the quarter pole, finishing 3rd against $8,000 condition claimers going this 5 furlong distance.
Well, there is a key scratch here of the 4 Twinkling Time. Oxydian should trip out pretty well here today. She's not much of a horse that has a big punch early, so if Gaffleone can keep her in striking distance early on in here, I do think that she probably has a chance. I think that City Trip has the race to lose, though. She looks like the controlling speed. Who else did you use, Ron? You used the number 6 horse in here. What about the 9 horse, May's Treasure Trove, coming in from a venue we don't see in South Florida all that much? In Ontario, just across the border from Buffalo, New York, is Fort Erie Racetrack, and that's where the 9 May's Treasure Trove comes in. She won 3 races up that way this summer.
I did not use her on a ticket. I went with the 6 Pentathlon. It's turning back to 5/8 of a mile. Broke from the rail, duel for the lead. Weekend at the quarter pole to finish 4th. Against this same level, going 7.5 furlongs. Turning back today. He's not going to be, I don't know if this horse will be part of the pace today.
No.
Turning back from that distance. I don't think so at all.
Absolutely not. She'll be coming on from far back late. That'll be City Trip, the one that she'll have to run down. Controlling speed, second start in South Florida.
Well, if anybody knows anything about Fort Erie, you think this horse, May's Treasure Trove, fits in the spot?
Well, I think that the wide open $75,000 starter allowance going 5/8. I mean, I think she probably is in the right spot. I don't know if turf is what she wants to do, but she does have some speed, and she gets Marcos Meneses, who's fairly aggressive. So we'll see where she lands here today. This is probably just a good starting point for the trainer to see if she's going to get the winner off or if she can hang down here.
And don't forget, we got those rolling super high fives throughout the afternoon. One of these horses, that we're talking about, if you don't like it to win, it certainly can you add one of these horses on that ticket.
Absolutely. There's not a lot of horses in this race, like Something Blue and Good Song. Those are dirt horses. I don't really think of them much on turf. So we also have a Rainbow Six carryover, as we touched on at the top of the program, 27,000 plus. And it begins with race number 5 today. 2-year-olds over the main track at 6 furlongs. This race has some horses that are making their first start against winners after breaking their maiden stylishly, referencing the 4-horse Lying Chief. And then you have a horse that's making his first start off a bit of a freshening and Proud Enough. I know you used both of them, but in the end, you settled for the 1-horse Strong Composition.
Well, I want to go back and show you the performance of Lying Chief last time out. And I wanted to ask you this question, Pete. This was this horse's debut. Were you impressed? Do you think this horse belongs on this ticket? I put it in third. I did not use it on top, and that's what I wanted to go back and show you this replay.
Well, I mean, you can see the horse is trying to shift leads there, just shifts leads in deep stretch. He was well regarded. He was 6-5 on debut. Eventual second-place finisher comes from far back to get up for second there. He just looked like it was, to use a Ron Nicoletti buzzword from years ago, it was a workmanlike performance.
Definitely was a workmanlike performance. I did not put it on top of my ticket. As you mentioned, I went with the 1 Strong Composition, stepping up to the $35,000 level after following his commanding $16,000 maiden score crosstown at Gulfstream Park with a 5-wide second here against $25,000 claimants at this very distance. And trainer Larry Pilati, Eddie Castro going to handle the inside post this afternoon. I thought this was the logical one in here, but I'm afraid the reason I wanted to go back and show you a Lying Chief, I wanted to see what you thought. Am I wrong by not putting this horse on top of the ticket?
Well, you just pulled a track announcer's nightmare. You just said Lying Eyes. That's another horse that runs here in South Florida. Those things are tough when they're close like that.
Well, Lying Chief is what I meant to say in there. Proud Enough should be ready to score. He returned from a 7-week freshening to track the pace and finished third at this level and distance. The trainer, Ralph Nix, Tyler Gaffleone in the saddle. Boy, what a summer they had here in South Florida.
Absolutely. Doesn't it look like to you that in this race it's the top 3 are really the cream of the crop in this race?
Yeah, that's the 3 I used on my Rainbow Six ticket, which we'll show you later on. And, my question, as I mentioned a couple of times, do I use the 4 singlet or use just 2 horses in there? And I wasn't convinced that would happen in here.
I'm always of the opinion, too, if you can narrow the race down to 3 and you know that one of those 3 has to win the race, why do you try to get cute and beat yourself? Just use all 3 of them and hope that your opinions are right throughout the sequence. Speaking of the sequence, let's move now to leg 2 of the Rainbow Six. First leg of the 50-cent late pick 5. It's race number 6. It's on the turf for Florida-bred fillies and mares. They're not won a race other than or in for $12,500. The number 11 horse in here, Neville, doesn't draw a very good post, but certainly has a big chance in here. We'll show you her last race. She shifted in late, costing her the victory, but the horse who beat her was her stablemate from the far outside, Boa 12. You'll see they both are from far back. That's Neville in the white blinkers under Edgar Prado. Caraballo on Boa 12 and the white cap down the center. They close in unison. Kind of got to be a good feeling for the Arundel farm to see their colors 1-2. But you'll see number 2, Neville drifts in just a little bit there when they got to the gap. Carries the momentum for Boa 12 to get up and win it. Boa 12 is not in here. Neville is, so she has to take center stage.
Yeah, I mean, I got her on my ticket for that exact reason. I thought she closed very, very well last time out. But I did go with the number 5 in here, Pete. Sweet Mary will try the state-bred $12,500 optional claimers. Went up and set the pace against the Starker closer bias and finished second against first-level allowance competition at the distance. Joe Cantonese, Eddie Castro named to ride. I thought that was a pretty nice performance against a pretty solid group.
Well, we're a broken record when we're talking about the way the turf course plays, and Sweet Mary's a horse that has to be on the engine to do her best work. That just means that she has to be much the best to win this race, as the turf course has not carried speed home as well as it has across town. So it's not to say she can't win. It's not to say she won't win. It's just to say that she has to be much the best to do so over this course.
You know, we just showed you that replay. The horse that finished third in there was like a Queen, who's turning back to a mile, went up and disputed the pace, got caught at the wire when finishing third behind aforementioned Neverly going a mile in the 16th, and that was last out. This one has shown the ability to rate from off the pace, and that could be her biggest asset when she has honest fractions up front. I look up a couple of starts back. She didn't have to be on the lead.
No, I don't think she belonged on the lead last time out either. That didn't do herself any favors. As you saw, the two horses who won that race came from last and second to last. But Like a Queen is a horse that just always seems to hang. I mean, I don't know if you're playing the Rainbow Six, if you want to use Like a Queen, or you want to take a shot with singling Neverly, or you want to try to use Sweet Mary and Neverly, or you just completely spread, because outside of those three, I think that you have to go a little deep. We'll turn our attention now to the 7th race. It is the first leg of the late pick 4, maiden special weight of the 2-year-old variety. 7 furlongs, the tricky distance of the day of this race. And we have some horses coming in for some high percentage outfits. Alfred McIntosh, Bill Mott, Tom Albertrani, and Oscar Gonzalez all have horses that are a quarter to chance on the morning line. 3 of those 4 horses are first-timers. Let's start with the Bill Mott horse, Ron. Made the bottom of your ticket, Herkimer Diamond. I always think of Bill Mott as a guy that never wins first time out. Now this horse has had a race over her in her belt. It shows green, makes all the sense in the world for Mott. Does she get the proverbial license to improve?
Yes, get Lasix added this afternoon. She showed that early interest in when apparently, I guess, bleeding in her maiden special weight debut. That was going a mile on the Belmont turf. You mentioned the connections. Tyler Gaffleone, it's a daughter of Rockart 10. And you know what a Herkimer Diamond is, right?
Absolutely not.
Herkimer Diamond is the hardest stone that they use when they lay stones on your hands to make you feel better and everything like that. Happened to look it up the other day. I wouldn't have known that if I didn't look it up. So it's the strongest of all stones, and they use it to, like I say, when they lay stones on you to make you feel better. So I just thought I'd throw that out. With that said, my best bet.
He abuses himself.
My best bet today comes in this race, and it's the number 4, a horse that is a half sister to $1.2 million earner, Henny Hughes. And now, why am I mentioning Henny Hughes, who won the 7 furlong Grade 1 King's Bishop? Now, this horse is stretching out to 7 furlongs on the main track after following her promising third-place finish on the dirt. She goes up, she chases the pace, and she finishes 6th behind a pair of next-out winners in a key 5-furlong dash. That was on the turf, but breeding suggests she'll respond favorably to both the surface and, as you mentioned, this tricky 7-furlong distance. If you go by breeding, Clover Knight, her half-sister won the King's Bishop, Henny Hughes.
Well, you have to look at it from the standpoint, I think, of resume, and if you look at the existing resume for everybody in here, she definitely is the horse that has the best resume. The horses that are first-time starters, and even like a horse like Herkimer Diamond, you really don't know, so you'll have to take it on faith that they are better than Clover Knight, and if you don't want to take it on faith, then you end up with the best bet of Ronnie's day.
Yeah, you know, we mentioned that we have the rolling super high 5 throughout the afternoon, and a horse like the number 5 Lentini is the daughter of Bernardini, debuting for trainer Tom Albertrani, who you mentioned at the top. Series of foundation building workouts showing at Palm Meadows, up at Saratoga. I think this horse could be on the ticket, but if you look at Tom Albertrani's record with 2-year-old first-time starters, 0 for 31. He always gives them a race, or at least that's what the stats point out to. So I'm thinking this horse, really classy. Of course he can win, but a horse that I think you got to put somewhere on your rolling super high 5 ticket.
Well, you do have a horse to bank on that statistic. It started here at Gulfstream Park West. He had a first-time starter by the name of Marchand earlier last week, and she did not run well at all.
Are we going to the 8th? Are you done?
Let's go to the 8th.
All right, I'm ready. I flipped a page.
Eighth race on the turf, 7.5 furlongs. The Journey, $30,000. The claiming tag. This has got to be one of the toughest races in the Rainbow Six and Pick 5 sequences because, from a tactical standpoint, you're going to have to get a horse from off the pace. But the horses that are coming from off the pace look like they're going to need a little help, both in the form and in the pace department. So, Ron, which way did you go here?
I went with the number 5, Island Dude, who's cutting back to 7.5 furlongs, dropping into this $30,000 condition claimant. Returned from a 10-week layoff to race wide and get beat 4.5 lengths by a strong group of first-level allowance runners, which included both Black Martino and Metaphorically, who finished 1-2, as you know, on Saturday. So it comes out of a good race, $30,000 condition claimers. Think this one could sit a nice trip, so I went with number 5, Island Dude, on top of my ticket.
Lots of speed in here to set it up for Island Dude. You have Less Than Perfect, who's shown a touch of speed. Fear the Falcon needs the lead. Creaky Cricket needs the lead, and Love Rules All stretching out around 2 turns for the first time. Love Rules All going out for high percentage winning trainer George Navarro, made it onto the Nicoletti ticket.
Yeah, and I also used the 3 Tiger Bird, but let's go with the 9 first. Love Rules All. A barn that certainly rules at Gulfstream Park West. Trainer George Navarro stretches this gelding out around 2 turns, as Pete mentioned. Back-to-back 6th place finishes. $30,000 optional claimers going 5.5 on the Mama Turf. Last time the gelding tried this distance was beaten only 2 lengths. Albeit it was a restricted stakes race at Del Mar in 2014. But it keys to me that this horse can run at this 7.5 furlong or mile distance. It's the connection play again. I think you got to have this one somewhere on your ticket. I like the 5 Island Dude to win it. Love Rules All in second. As I mentioned, I also use number 3, Tiger Boybin.
Tough race, the race that you're definitely going to need some coverage in the Rainbow Six. Lord, turning our attention now to the Thursday feature. It's on the main track at 6 furlongs. Entry-level allowance racer in for $16,000. A field of fillies that really have got a lot to prove right now. Number 3, Lucky Switch, from the barn of Ralph Nix, was favored on last time out in the slop. Did not run well, but that was her first start off of a bit of a layoff, and it was also her first start off an impressive debut run.
Yeah, I want to show you that impressive debut run back on May 17th. And this was really impressive. After this race, everybody was saying, boy, this is a really nice horse. As you mentioned, Pete, to turn it for home was much the best that afternoon.
Yeah, you'll take a look at it. Lucky Switch in the gold mark colors on the outside. Just got a tap on the shoulder by Gaffleone to go forward. Takes the lead, and then will just move away from the rest of the field. This was her career debut. She was accorded a 6-1 opportunity in that debut run. You can see she beat the 4-5 favorite, who was back third. Fusaichi Red, I think, ends up finishing third here. Pathos was heading up to be second. Fusaichi Red was a Pletcher trainee, it looked like, based on the bridle. Some of those things you can tell. Maybe not, but that's what it looked like from my vantage point. This race, 6 furlongs. Who else did you give a chance? Is it Lucky Switch or bust? Or are there closers like Bohème de Lave and Paris Bikini for Pletcher?
Yeah, Paris Bikini, the number 10, shows a couple of really solid Palm Beach Downs workouts in preparation for the first start since chasing the pace and fading. That was an entry-level allowance, going 6.5 furlongs. It was on a wet track up at Belmont Park. Pletcher already third in the trainer standings with 11 or 12 wins. He's just been on fire over the last couple of days, and he's good with this type of freshening. So I had to put this one on the ticket, number 10, Paris Bikini, and I used the inside horse in here, Pursuing Fate, cutting back to 3/4 of a mile, breaking from the rail today, went up and pressed the pace last time out, yielded late to finish 4th. It's Mike Maker, Rafael Hernandez, going to get a bit of a price on this horse, 12-1 on the morning line. I think he'd run okay against this level of competition, unless Lucky Switch with, I think, giving it a pass on the sloppy track last time out, coming off the layoff. Is Lucky Switch that good? I don't know. Do you single? Do you go deeper here?
Well, I think here's the thing about Lucky Switch. She can't be that bad.
Right.
I mean, she won so well in her debut run and then took some time off. So she's only a 3-year-old filly. Sometimes, you have some growth issues, just like anything. And Lucky Switch didn't run well on the slop. There was a lot of unknowns there. First start off a layoff, first start in the slop, first start against winners. Now some of those questions have been answered a little bit. She definitely should be better today than she was last time out. Should be noted that the 10 Paris Bikini carries the colors of Bobby Flay. And Bobby Flay is, of course, would he be a celebrity chef, or would he be a chef that is a celebrity?
I think it's like, 6 of one or half a dozen the other. It's pretty much the same over there and everything like that. So,
well, speaking of half a dozen, we have more than half a dozen going to post in the Thursday finale. It's on the turf. It's race 10. Maiden claimers in at the $16,000 level. 5 furlongs over the turf. We have a field of 10 signed on in here. These are 2-year-old fillies. Some of them have something to prove, including the morning line favorite, My Aunt Lily. She was 4th on turf debut and against maiden special weight. Came back to run bad on the dirt. Now she plunges in class. Is she plunging for the victory, or is she plunging for another reason?
I didn't use her, so I used Layla's Way on top of my ticket, dropping to the $16,000 level with blinkers added, dueled early, chasing the pace, and then weakened to finish the 7th. That was against $35,000 maidens. Trainers Dan Peter, Vincente Guidel in the saddle. This is what I call a very wide-open affair.
Well, you got some first-time starters on the outside half of the gate. Shakespeare's Girl from post 9 for trainer Manny Estevez, and then out wider than that, Denies Stormin for Dennis Ward and Jose Ferrer. Ferrer and Boca Chica both aggressive if they have any speed underneath them. Be interesting to see from a tactical standpoint where they want to land. For a 5 furlong on turf race, there's not a lot of speed in here. Maybe Layla's Way can get the lead if the first-time starters aren't fast enough.
Yeah, you know, in Shakespeare's Girl, you mentioned Orlando Boca Chica. That horse has got to go. There's no other thing. It's got to go. It's at least the way I see it, to get at least get position early on, you know. So, and then I used number 8, Monkey Mo, who's another getting some needed class relief today after showing speed and retreating back-to-back turf races against $35,000 types. Carlos Olivero and Enriquez Sanchez is the trainer. 20-1, I believe, on the morning line. Just one of those horses out there would go and maybe grab a share.
Ronnie going for the bombs in the finale here on the Thursday card, pitching what will likely be an odds-on favorite in My Aunt Lily. My Aunt Lily will give this field fits if she can run back to her debut race where she was 4th behind impressive winner Washington Song. The key question is, why the drop and why the bad race last time out? You could maybe give her an alibi for that bad race last time out because it was on the dirt course. However, she was 9-5 against 50,000 and only beat 1 home. Now she's in for 16 off that race. You have to have a little faith in her, or try to do the Ron method and pick some long shots and spread in your multi-legs.
Yeah, just trying to get a little bit of a price in the nightcap rather than go with the horse that probably everyone will be betting in there. But, you know, sometimes you got to take a shot. But I got a couple of horses I'm thinking to single in early on, so maybe I can go deeper in this race and add a horse that, you know, that I'm at My Aunt Lily that, you know, once I see it out, you know, see what's going on, look at it, maybe here, bet it in the last race to Super High Five.
Interesting horse to take note of, just for posterity, just to say we mentioned it. The number 3, I'm a Tornado, goes out for a guy that wins races at a sneaky good clip. Trainer Monty Thomas. Jonathan Gonzalez has the call. This horse showed speed in the debut. It was in June as a 2-year-old. Now has been given some time to grow into herself. These are the type of horses that Monty Thomas does very, very well with. So yet another option in a wide open Thursday finale.
Yeah, and he's 6-1 on the morning line, and I wouldn't be surprised if any horse that we mention or even someone else wins this last race.
A tricky card of racing. Yesterday, the early pick 5 was worth $17,000. The late pick 5 was worth less than $600. Might be role reversal time on that. I think the early pick 5 is more likely to produce some favorite winners than the late pick 5 today.
Well, good luck with all your selections throughout the afternoon. Once again, fast main track, firm turf course. We got the Rainbow Six carryover, $27,000 plus.
20 cents to play. Good luck today.